Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is video 2 in the series of how to make videos of you on track with multiple angles, audio, and data overlays. Video 1, we spoke about the hardware required to capture multiple angles, audio, and then put it all together. In this episode, we are going to talk about data loggers and telemetry systems. There are actually quite a few different brands and telemetry system options out there, and they all do things a little bit differently. So that kind of makes it complicated to talk about all your different options. So I figured the best way is to share with you guys why I chose the Autosport Labs dataloggers. That way you can kind of understand what I was looking for in choosing a data logger, and then maybe that'll help kind of put things into perspective for you and what you're trying to do with your car, right? Maybe you're not trying to do what I'm doing, or maybe you are, and as we kind of go through the reasons why I selected what I chose, maybe that'll kind of enlighten you in some way. I don't know. Okay, so we're on the computer here, and I think kind of the first two options we should talk about are phone-based timing systems or telemetry systems. They are very common for kind of like your casual HPDE attendees. And the reason being is that the apps are very inexpensive. You're looking at anywhere between 10 to 20 bucks, and they provide you with a lot of data. The other thing is the hardware is already included in the sense that you own the phone. So you've got the accelerometer, you've got the GPS unit, and you've even got the ability to record video. Okay, so why didn't I choose something like Harry's Lap Timer or Track Addict? I don't have a lot of storage on my phone, so recording videos is out of the question. My phone tends to overheat. Not in day-to-day use, but if I've got it plugged in and it's charging and I'm navigating with the GPS, it likes to get hot. And I can't imagine if I was also trying to record video how hot it would get and whether or not it would just stop or turn off. I don't know if that's a problem for newer phones, but that's something worth considering, right? So storage and kind of the overall just load that you're placing on the phone itself. Top of that, you're also mounting it on the window, and the sun will heat it up as well. Okay, so let's talk about more of the telemetry side of stuff, right? So if we're looking at accelerometer data from the phone, you need to make sure you have a very rigid mount. And a very common mount would be like a RAM mount. They're very rigid, but they're also very expensive, right? So on top of the $10, $15, $20 you're spending for the app, you're going to spend an extra $40 to $60 to mount your phone. So that just bumped up the cost. Then there's the actual like GPS position information, right? Your phone, most phones are update at 1 hertz or 1 time per second. Some may go as high as 2 or 3 times per second. A good data logger is going to at least give you 10 hertz a second, so 10 times a second. And so you might say to yourself, well, why does that matter? If you look at someone who's recorded and displayed information using like not a race capture, like a Track Addict or Harry's Lap Timer, you look at their speed information and you look at that in relation to them entering a corner and exiting a corner, and it doesn't correlate. And that lack of correlation is because the GPS position is updating so slowly and the car is moving so fast. Obviously, you can travel a great distance at 60 miles an hour every second. So there's not enough resolution there to provide good information. It'll give you minimum cornering speed and maximum straight speed, but really outside of that, that information isn't too useful. And then if you're looking for more detailed information like throttle position or brakes, brake position, brake pressure, steering angle, you need to be able to read the ECU, and a lot of times that is done via but the app can't do it, so you need to get an add-on like an OBD reader. There are different levels of OBD readers. The cheapest ones are in the $20 to $30 range, and supposedly they have relatively slow polling or refresh rates, and occasionally connectivity issues. The good stuff would be like a PLX unit, and that's $90, right? So that's $90 on top of the 50 for a mount, on top of the cost of the app. That's $160. I should go back here really quickly. To solve the GPS problem, you can get one of these like Q-Star add-ons, and that'll give you like a 10 hertz GPS positioning system, and that's great. But then the problem is now you've got to spend additional money for that information, right? And these will run anywhere between $120 to like $200. So if it's $100, you know, all said and done, you started with this phone app and you spent an additional $270, $280 to bring it to the level of something like an Autosport Labs race capture track. And arguably, it's not even close. These are two different leagues that we're playing in here. So the phone apps are great, but just know that it's a slippery slope. And if you're going to start buying any add-ons to a phone app, stop and just go buy a dedicated system. It's just not worth spending the money to enhance those applications. Okay, so say you do want to spend the money and you want to get a standalone data logger. Well, what do you look at, right? A really common one is VBox Motorsport. They're a high-end data logging company. You kind of see them in like Porsches a lot. At least that's where I've seen them. For the price of $300 to $400, you're looking at a VBox Sport, which I'm sure whoever over there is going to kill me, but it's like a glorified Q-Star. It is. It's kind of just a GPS system, and with maybe a little more functionality to it. Yeah, and VBox makes way more advanced systems that can do like video recording as well as CAN channel or CAN bus recording, but those systems are in the $3,000 to $5,000 range, and arguably they're not that great in the sense that you have to buy their cameras. The resolution of the cameras aren't that high, and depending on how many CAN channels you want to record, the system will cost more. Right, so it could be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and that's way outside of the realm of what I think you and I are willing to spend. And for $400, $500, maybe $600, the race capture can do the exact same thing, right? So we're talking about doing the same functionality for thousands of dollars less. The reason why you might spend money on a system like this, like VBox, is that it's very plug and play, right? There's not, you don't, like for example, like their video cameras, the software will do the overlays for you. And for me, obviously, I have to do that myself. Is it worth saving $3,000, $4,000, $5,000? Yeah, and arguably you do it enough times, you get pretty quick at it. Another system would be like an AimSolow. For the price, like $400, I think the AimSolow is a much better system than a VBox. And I could be wrong. I haven't used them. It's just based on what I'm looking at from the marketing material when I'm making an educated decision on what to buy. The AimSolow will give you a lot of timing, all that jazz, but it has the ability to connect to the ECU of the car. And I think there's some presets in there, depending on the car, to be able to help get you throttle input, brake input, and steering input. Even has the ability to be programmed for additional like ECU parameters. I don't know how easy or difficult it is to do that, to program for additional parameters that they don't provide you with, and whether or not they give you the tools to be able to sniff that stuff out. I have no idea. But it's there, and they claim to have it. For the same price VBox system, you aren't getting that, right? And I also don't know if the ECU connection for the AimSolow is via OBD or CAN bus. There is a difference. OBD is good, CAN bus is better, a lot better. It's faster. I mean, if you can only do OBD, fine. But if you can do CAN bus, go CAN bus, right? That's just one of those things. And it's like the VBox, the more expensive VBox units, the AIM units or AimSolow has like a camera, proprietary camera setup, so you can add a camera in and it'll overlay information for you and help you render it out. But obviously you got to buy their stuff, right? You're stuck in their ecosystem. Another solution is like Apex Pro, which is kind of like a glorified Harry's lap timer. It uses a OBD interface and a phone app. They've got a little more functionality in the sense that in this one, I think they do like a driver's aid system, and this is very similar to the Shift X3 that I'm running. Right, on my Shift X, I can program it to give me like a G comparison, so how close I am to my maximum G that the car is able to pull during cornering, braking, acceleration. It gives me like driver feedback. The Apex Pro will do that as well. But really, there are some deficiencies in the Apex Pro setup. You know, you got to use a phone. It's an OBD port based logging system and not CAN bus. And I was mentioning earlier, if you have the option to do CAN bus, do CAN bus. It's faster. There's usually way more information on the CAN network. It takes time to get it, but it's there. So, if we're looking in the $400 or $500 range, $300, $400, $500 range, you know, I stumbled upon Autosport Labs, and I think they're a great system. Let's take a look at their options here and talk a little bit about why I chose each one. Okay, so here we are looking at the Race Capture lineup, and they've got 3 different versions: the Pro, the Track, and the Apex. I don't know why anyone would use an Apex system, and I'm not saying that because I don't think it's a bad product. I literally just don't know what the advantage is. It's also very expensive, and you know, the other systems kind of fulfill the needs and the requirements that I have, so I just never did any research on the Apex system. I do have a Pro unit, and I started with a Pro unit because at the time I wanted to get oil pressure. And the track unit was the first version that they had, and you couldn't tie in external sensors or senders, so I had to get a Pro unit. And then after I got the Pro unit, after like a year or something, they came out with the track, and it actually had 2 CAN networks. And the second CAN network, you could use what they called an analog X, which I guess I could have used on the first one instead of getting a Pro, but at the time I was, you know, still learning. And this lets you bring in external senders like temperature, oil pressure, airfield ratio, boost, whatever you don't have on the car. And for all intents and purposes, I think the track is going to fill most of the people's requirements that are watching this video. And then if you're looking at a Pro, kind of like the difference is that it has what they call a GPIO, which will enable you to trigger switches and pumps and and relays and all sorts of other stuff. So you can kind of program the data logger to activate stuff for you. So if you have a series of switches on your race car's dashboards that you flip depending on what's going on in the car and you're overheating or whatnot, the Race Capture Pro can do that toggling for you automatically. So let's talk a little bit about the track. Now this is their entry-level unit, so whatever this unit has, all of the more robust and expensive units are going to have it as well. Let's see here. So one of the nicest things about the Race Capture is the app. Now, the Race Capture system itself doesn't have a display, and so it's dependent on you to either use a phone or a tablet or a Raspberry Pi to connect to the data logger. The advantage of that is there are 3 different ways to connect to the data logger. You can be hardwired, You can be over Wi-Fi, or you can be via Bluetooth. And because of that, you can run multiple displays. So unlike a Harry's lap timer where you only have a phone, or a VBox system where you only have a phone, or an Apex system where you only have a phone, or an AIM system like you only have a display, with the race capture system, I can run a tablet to display engine parameters, I can run a phone to display predictive lap timing, and I can run a Shift X3 to give me alerts and gear position and tachometer or whatever. Right? So there's a lot more options for viewing information. Not that you have to, but the ability to is there, which is really, really cool. The software has all sorts of other things like alerts and color coordinated gauges and all that other stuff, and it's nice, but you know, I don't think we have to really go into that too much. They also have ways of visualizing sensor information, and here they're talking about tire temperature. So if you've got like tire temperature readouts or sensors, you can hook them into the CAN bus network and see that live in the app while you're driving your car. Super cool. I don't think any of us are really going to be using that, although I want to. There's the Podium platform. The Podium platform is a web-based kind of platform that lets you visualize your telemetry information. But what's cool about the Podium platform is that you can live stream to it. So if your phone has a cellular connection at the racetrack, as it's recording information and getting information from your data logger, it can be transmitting it live via a cell phone connection to the pits, and your guys in the pits can be reviewing that information in real time. None of the systems that we talked about today, from Apex, VBox, or AIM, are capable of doing that. But with the entry-level system for race capture, you can. I'm not saying you have to, but you can. And there have been success stories here of people in kind of these endurance races where they've noticed certain things going wrong with the car in the pits, and when the driver comes in, they've got all the spare parts ready to go. Again, I'm not at that level. You may be at that level, but it's awesome to see a platform or a solution that has such a wide scope of functionality. Sensors. So the system itself is capable of logging multiple sensors. Now, some of the other units, I don't know what the limitations are, like with an AIM, how many extra ECU parameters can you log? I don't know. I know with a VBox, you pay for that. So if you want like 8 or 32 or 100, you have to pay on top of it, and it's not cheap. I think to add 32 channel logging to one of the VBox systems, it's $720. With the race capture, it's built in at no additional cost. The only difference, or the only thing to note between the different units is the entry-level unit has to record to a phone or a tablet. It has to be connected to something that will record the data for it, because it doesn't have enough onboard memory to record the data logs. As you move up to the Pro, and I'm sure the Apex units, those have built-in slots for SD cards that you can pop in, and it'll record to that for you. It still can record to a phone or whatever you connect to it, but it has the option of recording to an SD card as well. Okay, so this one's big for me, is that not only does it have OBD2 support, it has CAN bus connectivity. So cars coming from 2008 forward all have CAN bus, and that is really like the gold mine in the car. That's where you're going to get all of the sensor information. If the sensor information is being transmitted on the CAN network, if you put in enough time and effort, you can find it. Right? So for example, for the Subaru, I'm getting air fuel ratio, ignition timing, cam advance, steering angle, air fuel, or did I say air fuel ratio? Yeah, maybe. Fueling trims, right? NOx sensors, manifold pressure, intake temperature, intake manifold temperature. We're getting all sorts of information because this is all information the car is using. And so if the car is using it and it's on the network, I can find it, or theoretically I can work hard enough to find that information. And so if the other systems aren't connected via CAN, you could potentially be missing out on a lot of information that is on the CAN network, but not being transmitted via the OVD port. Track has two CAN networks again, so you can hook in an Analogs X or a Shift X3. Whoops. Oh, I'm lost here. It's got accelerometer and gyro built in. Different levels of connectivity. GoPro cam control. If you're running one GoPro, the system can trigger the GoPro for you to start to start recording and then to have it stop. I like the fact that we can use GoPros because they're probably cheaper than Smarty cams or whatever cameras the VBox people want to sell you. On top of that, I think the resolution is better, and then you can get old GoPros kind of cheap. What else is there? With regards to the GPS system, it can go from 1 to 50 hertz a second, which is really fast, and it can lock onto more than one GPS satellite. And I think some of these other ones, like the AIM and whatnot, can only lock onto 2, but I could be wrong. Let's see. So I kind of preached really hard about the race capture system. Let's see. What other advantages are there? Here we go. So these systems are programmable, and I'm not certain if the other ones are or not. It sounds like this AimSolow is slightly. They've created a scripting guide where you can have function calls inside to write a script and to do pretty much whatever you want with the system. So if it's not built into the firmware, you can essentially program it to do what you need it to do. And here's a whole guide with all the different functions. Then they have a section with basic scripts that you may be interested in, like calculating gear position, or creating an over-rev marker in the data log or an alert, a visual alert. One of the things that I really like is general purpose CAN Datalogger. So if you are going to be trying to pull information from the CAN bus, the first thing you have to do is log bus data or CAN bus data, and then you have to go in there and decode it yourself and reverse engineer the packet ID and the data position, the byte position. I don't know if any of the other data loggers or telemetry systems give you the tools to do this. And if they don't, even though they enable you to program it, you still got to figure it out. And if you can't dump the CAN bus, you got to go out and buy like an Arduino and a CAN shield. So it's really cool that they give you the ability to do that. I mean, the hardware already can do it itself, so it's only a no-brainer to be able to let you dump from the bus. And that's why I'm not certain that the Solo is OBD or CAN bus based. I'm not sure which is which. So overall, I'm a huge fan of the system, but there are some downsides to the race capture setup. Well, let's see. The first one is, with this ability to be so configurable, it's not so much plug and play, right? And that's like the trade-off. If you're looking for something that you can just plug in, and you might not get everything that you want, but you don't have to worry about it, race captures may not be right for you. I don't want to say it's not for you. It may not be right for you, because unless someone's created a profile for your car, you're going to have to do a lot of legwork up front to get it working. And what I mean by that is, if no one's done any reverse engineering on the CAN bus for your particular car, then you've got to do it yourself. If someone has, like me, if you own a 2015 Subaru WRX, I can give you my setup file. You can load it into your data logger, and you're good to go right off the bat. So that's one of the cool parts about it, but that's also a downside of it, right? The analysis software that you get with the Race Capture app is not as robust as something you're going to get with VBox or with the AIM hardware. However, there's like free apps out there that you can use to load the data log from your race capture to analyze it from. or analyze that information for, or whatever. So I tend to use track attack, which is pretty good. It's not the greatest, and sometimes it crashes and it can't handle the size of the file and this and that. But for that particular perceived weakness, there is a solution for it, right? I guess what else is there? I guess that's about it, or at least I can't think of any off the top of my head. Really, at the end of the day, the reason why I chose, the Autosport Lab dataloggers are because for the price, the functionality cannot be beat. Really, at the end of the day, you just got to put in the time and the effort, and chances are, if you're looking for very specific information like airfield ratio, ignition advance, all that type of stuff, chances are these AIM units, these VBox units, they're not giving you the presets for that. You're gonna have to go in there and figure it out yourself. So, you might as well get the race capture system for $300, $400, and do the legwork and save yourself thousands of dollars in the end. So that's why I chose the race capture setup. If you guys have any questions about data loggers or telemetry systems, please don't hesitate to ask. I think for the next video, we're going to kind of dive into a little bit more of the CAN bus sniffing and reverse engineering. So, i.e., how do we get throttle input or steering input or brake input? And again, before you go out and buy a system like this, I encourage you to watch all the videos in the series. That way you kind of know what you're getting yourself into, and that you don't get buy something that you're not ready to work with or not comfortable working with. So as always, guys, thank you very much for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.